So, I got this like to-go lunch there, and they give you the utensils, which again has a lot of neat stuff. You got the salt and pepper there. Of course, you got your trusty fork. You got your knife, of course, and the napkin. But what about the spoon? What if you have soup and you need to spoon this thing? Like, what do you do? Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, opening day is just inches away. We'll check in on the Yankee team and some of the important pieces that maybe gotten overlooked during this offseason. One of them being Luis Gil, who's had a bit of a rocky spring there. If you haven't really been paying attention, we'll kind of get into his numbers there. Again, he's supposed to be one of Aaron Boone's starting five. Aaron Boone's still committed to him being one of the starting five, but numbers not really looking good, but we'll look at that. And of course, last episode here on YouTube, we reported that Giancarlo Stanton hit a baseball, got a single. Now he's struggling, of course, with things like opening a bag of chips or opening up like a beer bottle, something like that. But he's got a hit. But he's even doing a bit better than that. He's actually been hitting some home runs there. So we'll look at his number as well, as he looks ready primed to start the season already there. And maybe someone you haven't really heard too much of, Max Schumann. Obviously, he was one of those like Brian Cashman Dollar Tree pickups guys that you kind of whiff off. Actually been having quite an impressive spring and making a case himself to make the opening day roster. Willie not there. We'll kind of shine a light on him. He's got a good chance there. He could do it, with the glove at many positions, but also, again, he's been hitting a lot there, so we'll kind of check in on his numbers there. And the Yankees, of course, coming out of the gate, we'll just look at the schedule early on in April. They got a very good opportunity to at least get a good head start to the season, at least in the standings. So, you don't want to squander away wins, in April, because you kind of need those in the end of the season there. So we'll kind of just look at the early part of the Yankee schedule there and let you know why they at least have a good shot to at least put the, right foot forward there to start the season there. So a lot of good Yankee news, and maybe some guys and some stories you just haven't heard about because, a lot going on right now. Of course, maybe you're busy with March Madness, maybe you got a little hangover from the WBC there, so we'll focus back on this Yankee team as, again, we're just about to start opening day there. But before we get started, we have the whole season ahead of us. I've told you many times, I've warned you many times, I don't know if you're taking me up on the offer. Take me up on the offer this season. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. I know you like to see me, but you want to get me to take some things sooner, right away, some big new story breaks. You don't have to wait a whole week for a new episode. Get my take as soon as possible there. Sign up wherever you get your favorite podcast. And of course, you're watching here on YouTube. If you haven't done already, make sure you subscribe to the Section 420 Talkin Yankees show here on YouTube. Get it all. As we know, the Yankee starting rotation is going to be a little iffy there to start the season. As we know, Garrett Cole, who was at least on the mound throwing batting practice and has yet to really actually get into a live game yet, but is throwing because we know he's not going to be on schedule to start the season. Of course, maybe he's not going to be back till maybe late May at best, as well as Carlos Rodon kind of is building himself up, not yet getting into a game yet, not going to be there to start the season. He probably comes along maybe sometime late April there, so it's going to be important for some of the other guys, the other starters in the Yankee rotation to kind of make up for that gap there until those reinforcements come there. And of course, one of those big pieces, as we all know, is going to be Luis Gil. Of course, Luis Gil, 2024 American League Rookie of the Year, really had a great first half of the 2024 season. Kind of dipped a little bit, recovered a little bit there, but of course, the focus has been trying to get him back to that form that he was. Again, if you remember the early part of the 2024 season, he, not only the Yankee team got off to a great start, he got off to a great start, and there was even some whispers that, hey, this guy might be a Cy Young Award contender. I didn't think he'd be able to keep that for the whole season there, but you can see what potentially could be, and it seems like the Yankees are all looking to recapture that. Now, obviously, 2025 season was a little bit of a lost season for Luis Gil. Obviously, got hurt in spring training there. We didn't really see him until the later part of the season there, where maybe one or two of his starts were impressive. Obviously, against Toronto, they threw him out there in Game 2 to the Wolves there, and after a couple home runs early on, they just yanked him out. Maybe yanked him out too early, but nevertheless, Luis Gil really didn't have a full, good 2025 season to really make a judgment off him. That's why this season was going to be important for him. Now, with no injuries there and a full off season there, we're expecting a little bit more for him to have a really good spring training. Has not been the case for him. Even though Aaron Boone has committed to him as being one of his 5 starters out of the gate there. But out of necessity, though, he's going to have to step up to make up for the gap there because, you still have some uncertainties. Obviously, with Ryan Weathers is going to be one of those 5 guys as well. Obviously, we know he potentially could do there. But again, he's also someone that has been bit by the injury bug there. So again, we don't know how long he can last. Even if you take someone like Will Warren, who is serviceable there, but he is kind of a number 5 starter. He makes all the starts, and he's got some good stuff, some good potential there. But he's also has a lot of blow-up type of games. A lot of games where he has to get yanked out in the first or second inning there. So, you need somebody like Luis Gil, at least had a little bit more of a resume, who's done it here before, to really kind of step up there. And again, so far the spring has not been kind to him. One of his starts against Detroit, surrendering 3 home runs. And if you want to look at his line overall in spring at this point there, so 5 games played, 5 starts, 2-1 record, ERA not good at all. It's 6.28. And in 14 innings, 14 point and a third innings there, has given up 19 hits in 14 innings. Not good there at all. 11 runs in those 14 innings. And kind of the most glaring thing has been the 6 home runs so far he's given up this spring. So giving up the long ball. Strikeout stuff, I mean, his swing and miss stuff hasn't been good. I mean, he has been getting strikeouts, so 17 strikeouts in 14 innings. So overall, if you want to look at this, he's giving up more than a hit per inning. Also getting up more than a strikeout per inning. So, the strikeout part's good, but you can't be giving up 19 hits in 14 innings there. So not a good sign for Luis Gil there. And at least he acknowledged that he's not in Wonderland. And again, in terms of what he's lacking right now, he doesn't have a good feel for the changeup as he feel. And again, the Yankee coaching staff has been, kind of notified that his swing and miss stuff, that was so good for him in 2024 has not been there yet. Only good news so far is that his average fastball has gone up a tick. So from that start against Detroit, the fastball average was 95.8 miles per hour. So looks like he's increasing his fastball velocity a little bit. And if you remember what happened towards the end of last season, he tried to take a little bit off the fastball to be a better control pitcher. Didn't really work out to it well. And now he's got a situation here where, almost the same thing there, where he's got, a little bit more velocity, not getting great control there, getting hit around, surrounding some home runs there. Again, so, the swing and miss stuff that was good for him in 2024 hasn't showed up there this spring there. Now, again, he can still tweak and work on this. I won't go too crazy. And again, sometimes pitchers aren't using spring training to win games necessarily. They just want to work on stuff a little bit. So it could be a case he's just working on things and like, hey, look, let me try this slider. If I give up a 2-run home run, okay, I just want to throw it in there in an actual game just to see how it goes there. So I wouldn't go too crazy with the numbers overall, but it is somewhat alarming there because, at least early on in the season, you're going to need him to be one of those 5 guys. And you're expecting him to be one of those 5 guys along the way there. But, of course, if he doesn't pitch as well, he's got guys like Will Warren and Ryan Weathers nipping at his heel there. Again, if he doesn't pitch well there, because once, obviously room's going to start running out there. Cam Schlittler is, of course, slotted in. Max Fried, who's going to get the ball for opening day, he's going to be a de facto ace as of now. You got Cam Schlittler there. Then, of course, before you know it there, you'll have calls for no back, then you'll have Cole back, and then, of course, that 5th slot there could be open competition. It could be Luis Gil, could be Ryan Weathers, could be Will Warren. We'll see how it all works out there. But again, if Luis Gil doesn't pitch well there, maybe he could get away with a couple bad starts in April, but by May, if he doesn't show great improvement there, he could be in a little bit of a trouble. Now, the Yankees do actually have one final option on Luis Gil if they do decide to send him down to AAA to work on some things, whether they break camp or maybe in the middle of April. I'm not sure they want to do that because then once they lose that last option, they're going to be stuck with them where they got to, if they bring them up to the major league roster, then they're going to make some sort of move out of them, either designate him for assignment, include him in trade, which I don't think they want to do right now. Now, his probably trade stock has gone down significantly since 2024, but again, still relatively young, mid to late 20s there. Again, if he could just kind of get a little bit more giddy up on that fastball like we used to see back in 2024, when he was hitting like 97, 98, 99 routinely there, maybe his stock does go up and then maybe you could put him in some package, some sort of trade there, but getting way ahead of ourselves there. Again, but Luis Gil needs to get himself right there, at least for the early part of the season, because he's going to be a very important piece. And this spring was going to be important for another Yankee who missed a large chunk of the 2025 season. That would be on, I guess, the other side of the diamond in terms of on the field there, or at least a DH, and that's Giancarlo Stanton. Also, the situation with the elbows. Again, he's said it many times that, this is something he's going to play with, not only now, but guess whatever years he has left in his baseball career. With these creaky elbows, and you're not sure. Obviously, last spring training, we had no idea this was going to come. We all got blindsided by the whole thing. Doesn't seem to be the case this year, so that's a good thing. Didn't get any sort of off-season surgery or anything like that. I don't guess whatever this situation has with the chronic elbows, they can't really cure it that, but at least Stan knows what he needs to do to get to this point there. Obviously, he got into his first game around early March there, and in the game got a hit there, which is good to see. High exit velo off the bat there. But of course, we heard these other little jokes and news story there, getting with his elbows. He struggles to open a soda bottle or bag of chips like that there. So you still kind of hold your breath a little bit. Like, is this guy going to be able to go for the season there? Again, 36 years old. He's hit a ton of home runs there, and he takes this violent swing there, which is probably taking a toll on his elbows. Well, you feel a little bit better, which he's done after after that game there, hitting 3 home runs. Of course, had 1 home run against Pittsburgh in the game, and then of course, which you like to see, had 2 home runs in the game. That was one of the spring training games against Toronto, and not just hit a home run, but the one he pulled there was just absolute, just crushed off the bat there. Looks like vintage Giancarlo Stanton there. So again, for one of his problems, I guess he knows what to do. He knows with his body there. So I'll just take his word for it, and he kind of seems ready to go there. At least with the bat, with the power. And again, it's only been a handful of games. Again, he didn't really get started until much later than the rest of the team. Just again takes his body a little long to get going there. And he kind of has his own little system, which again the Yankee staff let him does his own thing on the side there. But and again, actually he's not going to carry these numbers into the season, but obviously just want to look at what he's been doing there. So far in spring, slugging at .813, which is pretty darn good there, and an OPS, Judgian type of OPS of 1.063. And again, he has only 4 hits this spring, but 3 of them are home runs there. So that's kind of what you expect from Giancarlo Stanton. So you want to just throw this back, compared to where we were a year ago when we hear not only is he not available, that maybe needs surgery on his elbows, and you're not going to maybe see the guy for 2026 or 2025 or 2026. Well, at least we got him in the uniform. He's playing games there, hitting home runs, and we'll have him there for the start of the season, which we did not have last season there. So really good news for the Yankees. Now, the only interesting thing is that if we're going to go back for last season, him not being available early on in the year gave Boone some flexibility to then use Aaron Judge in the DH hole a lot, which then opened the door to moving Bellinger around, having Bellinger play some right field, and then opened up left field for Jason Dominguez, where he got his opportunity there, which, you could mix opinions on whether, he did well or not last season. Obviously, defensively not there. But now, obviously, this year, if you're Jason Dominguez, you're not going to have that opportunity because, obviously, if Stanton now is going to take a majority of those DH spots and games there, it kind of closes the door there. And as the Yankees kind of whittle down this roster to 26 men there, is it worth keeping Jason Dominguez on there? Now, we'll kind of get into that a little bit later there, but again, so kind of the good news and the bad news of a healthy Stanton there is that it's going to close up some opportunities for some other guys. Mainly, probably most glaring, is going to be Jason Dominguez, who normally, if Stanton's your DH, well, you're looking at left field is going to be Cody Bellinger, center field is going to be Grisham, right field Aaron Judge, and then where do you play Jason Dominguez? Of course, you can have him on the bench. He could spot start here and there, he could pinch run here and there, but, is it really worth keeping that guy there on the roster? So, and again, we'll get into it a little bit later there, but most importantly, though, I think you would rather have this situation of having a healthy, or at least as good as he's going to get, Giancarlo Stanton there for opening day. I guess while we're here, might as well get into the Yankee outfielder. That's Jason Dominguez, whether he's going to be on the at least opening day roster here. Now, of course, we've got the news already, kind of a little bit older at this point, that Spencer Jones, who might have been a candidate there, obviously got demoted to the AAA camp, and his first game there, didn't pout anything, actually hit a home run in that game there, so good to see, at least keeping his head on his shoulders. And again, these two guys would have probably more in play if the Yankees had not re-signed Cody Bellinger, and as bad as people want Cody Bellinger back, let's see how that goes after a season. Maybe people feel that maybe somehow that kind of blocked the pathway for Dominguez and or Spencer Jones. Remain to be seen there, because the question is going to be, how does Aaron Boone want to treat and Brian Cashman want to treat this situation? As before, is it worth keeping Jason Dominguez here on the roster if he's only going to maybe start once a week there and maybe pinch run here and there, maybe get a pinch hit situation here and there? Isn't it more beneficial to be in AAA, get a lot more bats, keep working on his hitting, especially from the right hand, which again hasn't been still great where the Yankees wanted to be. Obviously, I still think they should try to pursue him as a switch hitter there, but of course, we've seen his power mostly being from the left hand, only because he's been getting more opportunities there. But nevertheless, obviously the Yankees got to make a decision. Now, it seems like the Yankees are really keen on Randall Grichuk, who's the Yankees signed very late in the offseason there. Somebody, obviously, you can play multiple positions, you can play all the outfield positions, is a veteran, and it seems like the Yankees have had their eye on him. Wild rumors, actually, they will try to get him last trade deadline. It seemed like the deal didn't go through. That's probably why you saw Austin Slater instead as the right-handed bat they brought in here. But it seems like, Randall Grichuk's a guy, obviously he's a veteran. That's somebody, obviously he's not going to play every day. You could put him on the bench. Again, that's someone you wouldn't mind, and you're not really paying him much at all to keep a guy on the bench and use him in certain situations versus Jason Dominguez, who you're going to rather get to play every day down in AAA. So, just reading the tea leaves, it probably seems like Randall Grichuk will make the ultimate day roster as a bench player, and probably Jason Dominguez more than likely is going to be sent down to AAA. Now, I've heard a lot of fans say that, hey, what they're doing to Spencer Jones and what they're doing to Jason Dominguez, hey, you got two young players with a lot of potential, you're stunting their growth, and this is like all over again with Clint Frazier and all over again with Miguel Andujar and all over again with Jabba Chamberlain there. And, you can kind of make some cases against that. But obviously, you have to look at some other things aside there. I mean, if you're the Yankee front office, what do? You take a guy like Trent Grisham, who could play center field. He's won a couple of Gold Gloves in the past. Is he a Gold Glove center fielder right now? No, but he's still right there in terms of the quality of center field play. And the guy just hit you 34 home runs. I mean, you just let him walk out the door, or you just roll the dice on someone like Dominguez, who, had a decent 2025 season in the limited time he's playing with. Wasn't overly impressive, and in kind of the second half, you didn't hear from too much of it all. And then an unproven talent like Spencer Jones, who, hit some mammoth home runs, put in some impressive numbers, but also strikes out a ton. Is that somebody you're going to trust as a starter there? So, the Yankees are a bit of a bind there. I still think, obviously, after next season, and I've been saying this a lot here and on the audio podcast, again, Trent Grisham is just going to be here for one more year, and that's it. He's gone. The Yankees are not going to retain him. I just don't see any situation. So it's going to open up center field, or it could open up left field. Of course, you still have Cody Bellinger this season and next season guaranteed under contract before Bellinger could opt out. So you could potentially have Bellinger for left field this season, maybe move the center, and then for next year, that opens up left field, and you got some possibilities for either Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez as well there. So, even if both Dominguez and Jones end up in a AAA there, again, it's not the worst thing in the world. And again, we have a whole season ahead of us. A lot of things could happen. Belgica could get hurt. Trent Grisham could get hurt. Giancarlo Stanton, unfortunately, obviously dealing with some creaky elbows. At some point, maybe he needs to go down for a couple of weeks, and then you could bring up a Jones or a Jason Dominguez. So I don't think this is really starting the growth. And if you want to look at some of the other Yankee cases, Miguel Andujar, good hitter there, but it was not a good defender. Obviously, it was a little sloppy at third base. They tried him in left field a little bit. That was obviously, you had to hold your breath as well. So, there was really nothing to do with Miguel Andujar. He was too good to be just a DH only there. I mean, he was athletic enough where he should be able to play a defensive position, but his defense was not as good. So you almost, what do you do with a guy like that? And Clint Frazier, obviously, he had his opportunities. The Yankees brought him up multiple times there. I know he had the concussion issue, obviously, in spring there, and he was kind of never the same player after that. But he got opportunities elsewhere as well. I mean, he got opportunities with Cubs. He got opportunities around baseball. So you can't just say somehow the Yankees kind of stunted his growth. I mean, they gave him at bats there. I mean, in the times he was up here, I mean, he'll hit a home run once in a while, but didn't do enough there to really keep him up here on the major league rosters there. So those guys have no one to blame themselves. Even though someone like Oswald Peraza, I mean, the Yankees gave him a whole bunch of chances to grow in this here, and he would always come up here and either hit 200, he would hurt his foot, he would have to go back down there. So the Yankees gave some of these young guys some chances, and maybe they could have stuck with some of these guys longer to see it works out there. But the times they were up there, they weren't overly impressive. Where you say you got to keep this player up here. So Cam Schlittler, on the other hand, when he came up here in July, he came up here and just had that one bad start against Toronto where it looks like maybe he was tipping pitches there, but he made a case to keep him up here on the major league roster, and he stayed here. So so for some of these guys want to complain and stuff like that, I mean, somebody like Cam Schlittler got his opportunity and he stayed here. Ben Rice, same thing. Obviously, gave him a cup of coffee in 2024. Okay, wasn't the greatest, but 2025, the Yankees gave him a lot more playing time, and he made a case to keep himself up here. So I don't think the Yankees, kind of stunt the growth of these guys. The only one you could say the Yankees really botched was kind of Jabba Chamberlain, the whole Jabba rules. You want to go back to that, but kind of ancient history there. But I just think with some of the young guys there, they have to, when they do take their chances, and Jason Dominguez got a big chance in 2025, at least the first half of the season, to really overly impress us. Had a decent okay, but defensively wasn't great there. And again, but by the middle and later part of the season there, really kind of found himself on the bench more than anything. But he really has no one else to blame but himself. On the flip side, of course, we have underdog stories, which we always kind of find interesting in spring training. Those guys you don't really heard of and not familiar with, but really kind of go above and beyond to really fight and claw their way onto the active roster. And one of those guys might be Max Schumann, who it was one of those waiver wire pickups. That's when the Yankees were picking guys up, DFAing them, picking guys up, DFAing, kind of going around there. A lot of them seem to be a lot of backup shortstops, mainly because to sort of patch up the Volpe situation until he comes back there to just give the Yankees a couple of options. We've seen the Yankees also sign some guys like Paul DeYoung there to kind of bring him and some veterans in as well into the mix there and to try to find that right guy there. Well, Max Schumann seems like to have an inside track of possibly making this opening day roster. Obviously, not only hitting well there, but because it's more about his versatility, what he could do in the in the field there. He can almost play all the outfield positions. He can also play shortstop, second base, third base. So here's a guy who comes in from some late inning defense, or just, if you have a situation, someone gets hurt, goes down there, you go plug him in immediately. But the fact that he's been hitting well this spring there makes more of a case for him to make the opening day roster. And just in case you can see his numbers there, so far in 11 games. And now, mind you, this is a 212 career hitter. Last season, he only hit 197. So this guy hits about 200 normally. But so far in 11 games this spring, 409, okay, there. Now, it hasn't been much power there. 9 hits only. Only 3 of those with doubles, but no home runs, and just has 1 RBI to show for it. And, of course, 2 stolen bases to show a little bit of speed there. So here's a guy who gets to steal some bases, play multiple positions, whether it's in the outfield or in the infield if need be there. Gives Aaron Boone a lot of flexibility, so you understand why Brian Cashman would bring a guy like that in there and then kind of throw him into the mix. And right now he's making a case for himself. Now, we've seen the Yankees kind of do some funky things, at least in the infield, one of them being Ryan McMahon play some shortstop, which I don't love. Yeah, I'm sure he can handle it there, but I just rather him to stay at one position. He's a third baseman. He's a at least very high quality, / Gold Glove caliber defender there. I'd rather him to stay at third base and let him focus on one position, not change angles on him. I'm sure he can handle him still. I don't love the idea. But again, someone like Schumann there, throw in the mix, obviously. You put Caballero is going to be, obviously probably your opening day shortstop there. But again, if this guy at least could maybe make a case for him to at least be a backup, and the fact that he could back up some other positions, just like Jazz at second base there, you like that. Now, obviously, it's going to create some competition because the Yankees have some other options, as well. I mentioned, have some of those veterans, some other guys brought in, and of course, this guy, as we all remember, Oswaldo Cabrera, finally getting some games. And, I said before previously, this is a guy, you'll like the guy. He's got the nice smile, good attitude, personality. They all seem to like him in the clubhouse here. But, the Yankees have to make a hard decision on this guy at some point. I mean, offers you a lot. He's another guy who can almost play every position except catcher there. So you like his versatility. And you remember when he first came up there, he was looking at the jack of all trades. Obviously a switch hitter as well. You like that possibility there. But again, the offense hasn't really been there. Now, look, we don't expect much from him. You don't have the expectations of Oswaldo Cabrera that you do of a Jason Dominguez. But again, he's got to put some numbers there. And so far this spring has not been good for him at all so far. In 4 games so far, at least up to this point, he doesn't have a hit yet. So, so the Yankees kind of crunch down his roster. They're going to make a decision where you got like Max Schumann there. Maybe he's not a guy that's popular. Maybe it's a guy that the fan knows, but he's playing his butt off, hitting 409 versus a guy like Oswaldo Cabrera, who maybe the fans like. They want to see him back. They feel bad. Obviously, last season, with the broken ankle, that whole deal kind of a lost season for him. They'd like to see him come back and be strong and have a good season for the Yankees. But at the same time, too, if he's not producing, and he really hasn't been that kind of guy we initially saw back in the the 2022 season. That's like almost 5 years ago. So we're kind of waiting for this guy to finally blow up, and he's just not really doing that yet there. So we're going to be a situation where the Yankees may have to make a tough choice on Oswaldo Cabrera at some point there. And for all the fans that want to get on Volpe and stuff like that, the guy at least gives you something. I mean, he plays almost 60 games there. I mean, he's always over like about 150 there. So he's always playing. He's always available. Last season was not good for him at all. But even all that in mind there, guy played hurt with a bad shoulder, still almost played a complete season and gave you everything he got. We all know the batting average isn't great. We know he's bad with runners in scoring position and the batting average, all that stuff. But again, at least he gives you something. You got a Gold Glove from him in his first year. He's a guy who hits about 20, 25 home runs every season there. So he gives you something, he gives you some power, but kind of fans want to get on him, but fans don't want to get on someone like Oswaldo Cabrera because maybe the expectation for him isn't high there. So feel a little bit uneven there. So we'll see how this goes. But as for Max Schumann, again, if he keeps playing like this, he's going to make a real hard decision for Aaron Boone and the coaching staff to keep him off the opening day roster. Now, if you want to mark your calendars where, maybe you aren't paying attention, you just assume kind of like where it was years ago, you just thought like April is opening day in baseball because now, so like the Super Bowl, how they kind of stretch it now into February, baseball is now kind of stretch opening day into March a little bit, and the baseball is really going to the extreme in this one. And of course, the opening day for baseball officially and the Yankees, just in case you didn't know, it's going to be March 25th. That's a Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, March 25th at 8 o'clock. But unfortunately, it's on Netflix. So if you're not a Netflix subscriber there, you kind of be left out of the cold a little bit. Of course, you can catch the radio broadcast on WFN as always there. But of course, for Yankee opening day, baseball opening, but specifically a Yankee fan, the fact that, you can't get your team if you're not a Netflix subscriber is kind of crappy. But of course, that's just the future of where things are there. And I don't get into a whole tangent of that. But nevertheless, they're opening the season in San Francisco against the Giants. Obviously, it's 8:05 here, so over there, I guess it'll be like 5 o'clock afternoon there, so maybe you have some shadows creeping in there with that there. Then, of course, they get a day off finish the next 2 games, Friday and Saturday, at the Giants, and there'll be no baseball Sunday, which is also kind of odd to have a Sunday and no baseball game there. And then the Yankees go up there to Seattle, 3 games there, and then of course from there finally come home. Which I want to get to is that early on in the season, at least early part of April, the Yankees have a good opportunity to get a leg up in season there where the competition really isn't that tough now. Of course, your season just started, everyone's kind of getting the nuts and bolts in and kind of getting a feel for things, and both teams aren't going to be 100%. So yeah, it could be very possible that the Yankees just get off to a horrendous start there, but of course then start playing well against better teams there, vice versa. You don't know that, but at least if logic goes where it should be, the Yankees have a good opportunity to get themselves off on the right foot in the season, which is important because you remember back to last season, they ended up with the Toronto Blue Jays tied at 94 games each. Of course, Toronto, because they beat the Yankees' brains in all last season, had the tiebreaker there, so got the AL East title, and the Yankees had to go through other channels through the playoffs. Now, if things were on a different foot, if the Yankees were the AL East champions, maybe had a totally different story. I don't know. I mean, Toronto was a bit of kind of a buzzsaw going through the American League there, so I'm not sure if it made a difference or not, but still, if you get some easy wins in April, you want to get them now, not have to start playing catch up back in late September, but nevertheless, going through the season. So as I mentioned before, you start the season at the Giants at Seattle. Then the Yankees come home. They have their opener. That's April 3rd, Friday at Yankee Stadium, 1:30, a typical day opener there, which is kind of typical, against a gift, the Miami Marlins. Now, of course, any team could beat anybody on a given day. We all know that. But still, the Yankees got a pretty soft schedule early on. So, of course, you got the Marlins, then against the Athletics after that, who was still kind of searching for a home. So you got 6 pretty easy games there. And then after that, the Yankees do go down to Tampa there, against 3 games against the Rays. I mean, that could be a whole hum there. But then come home for a pretty, again, generous homestand for the Yankees, where they have a total of 7 games against the Angels. Now, I'm not sure if they're the Los Angeles Angels or the California Angels or the Orange County Angels, but I'm not sure which Angels version. But it's the Angels team there, which you just don't know what they are. I mean, we just don't know what they are right then. So you get them and the Royals. Same thing with the Royals again. So if you got 7 games against the Royals and Angels there at home there, plus combined a week before that, you got 6 games against the Marlins and the Athletics. I mean, that's about 13 pretty easy games there for the Yankees to take advantage early. If you just hold your own on the West Coast trip to start the season. Now after that, it gets a little bit tougher. The Yankees are playing the close out April against Boston and Houston. Of course, that could be much tougher there, but at least that early to middle part of April, a very kind of soft schedule there for the Yankees to take advantage of, and of course they give the ball right away to Max Fried to start the season, and then of course there's a couple of off days in between there. Maybe possibly you could get him for the go around for the home opener. We'll kind of have to see how the days line up there, but nevertheless the Yankees have a good opportunity to get on the right foot and get themselves a couple of games up in the AL East there, because again you want to get a good lead early there, because you don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. You could just have a dog pile of injuries and stuff like that, and you're struggling and calling guys up and back and forth there. So if you get some easy wins in April, the Yankees should take advantage of it. As I said before here at Section 420 Talking Yankees, we're not afraid to go after the hard story. Of course, we had the story a couple of weeks ago at the George M. Stein Brothers Field there. We had the major sewer leakage, the backup where, the sewer pipe cracked and there was a foul smell around the whole area. Again, we covered that extensively. Well, now we have a hard-hitting news, and that's, of course, dealing with Cam Schlittler, who was attacked by a spider. Okay, not attacked there, but had to go to his locker there. I guess as he goes to the locker, he noticed a spider there, and by his own account, on his X account there, called Yankee security to have the spider removed. So it wasn't a fan, it wasn't a ruling fan, it was a spider that he had removed there from his locker, which, look, I hate spiders too, so I'm totally there with them. Now, Fox News actually did a little bit in-depth analysis of this, and in that particular area of Florida, there's 3 types of spiders that are very prevalent. You have the garden spider, the wolf spider, which those things are hairy and kind of creepy. They're small though. And the infamous house spider. So we're not sure exactly what spider this was, and we didn't see a picture from Cam. Again, Cam didn't want to take a picture of this thing. I mean, you should have taken a picture, posted it. We don't know the size of it. We don't know the veracity of it. But he had security to remove this spider from the locker. Now, it was that game against Detroit where Luis Hill got rocked, so it wasn't a game that he was pitching in, so it didn't have to affect his pitching or anything like that. And of course, Cam Schlittler had a slow start to spring. Initially, had to shut him down earlier. He was dealing with a bulky back, so he's not going to be fully built up at the start of the season. He should be on the opening day roster, of course, there, but they'll probably have to baby him through the first 4 innings before they get him. But the good news is that he's safe from the spider, so he's safe.